Today in Luther's Kitchen, we're making chocolate vanilla sandwich cookies, kind of like an Oreo, but much better because it's all homemade. So in that mixture, we've dropped in the bowl all-purpose flour, baking powder, and some kosher salt. And to that, we're gonna add some cocoa powder. Good quality cocoa powder, Dutch processed, if you can find it, is better. And you wanna whisk all the dry ingredients together, or you could sift them over a bowl. And the goal is to remove lumps and to aerate that mixture so you end up with a better cookie batter. Now in the bowl of a stand mixer, you want to begin creaming together unsalted butter and sugar. So we're using a half a cup of unsalted butter plus 2 tablespoons. Make sure it's at room temperature. And we're putting a half a cup of granulated sugar with that. And we want to beat it until the sugar is light and fluffy. Then we're gonna add in a whole egg and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we're gonna give everything a good mix until we see the egg has disappeared. Now it's time to carefully add in our dry ingredients, and we want to do this with the machine off. And if you have a hard time adding all of them at the same time, you can do half. Turn the machine on the slowest speed possible, otherwise the dry mixture is gonna fly out and make a big mess. And then you wanna scrape down the side of the bowl and the paddle attachment before adding in the rest of it. And again, you just wanna stir on slow speed until everything is incorporated, but be careful not to over mix. You never wanna over mix cookie dough, it makes it tough. Now you're gonna take the dough out of the bowl and just briefly knead it. Again, do not over mix. And then you wanna put it in between 2 sheets of parchment paper where you can roll it out nicely. I've actually split the dough in half, and so I've got 1/2 of the dough in between 2 sheets of parchment paper. That way it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. And I'm just trying to roll it out pretty thin, about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm gonna start cutting out cute little square shapes. All right, this dough looks pretty good, so I'm gonna peel the paper off, and you can recycle that top sheet, flip it upside down, and put it on a sheet pan and bake your cookies right on top of that, so you're not wasting too much paper. So now I'm gonna try to make the best use out of that space so that I don't have to roll a lot of scrap dough again. And I'm just using a fluted square cookie cutter, and I'm gonna get as many cuts in as possible before I have to re-roll the scraps. Oven should be preheating at this point to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so there's the recycled paper, and I'm getting ready to start dropping those cookies, which are probably going to stick a little bit to the paper, so I'm going to use an offset spatula and just kind of scrape them off so I get a nice, clean, pretty square shape onto the parchment paper. They're not going to expand to the side, so you can kind of crowd it onto the sheet pan without worrying that they're going to stick together as they bake. These are gonna bake for about 8 minutes. You'll know when they're done when they've lost the shine. They'll look matte on top, and you want to let them fully cool before you apply the center icing. To make the vanilla buttercream filling, we are using 1½ cups of confectioner's sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 stick of unsalted butter. Softened. You want to give everything a good mix, make sure there's no lumps, and that your icing or filling is super smooth. When your filling is very smooth, you want to remove it to a piping bag if you have one, or you can use a quart-size Ziploc bag, and you can just cut a tip at the bottom corner. It's really important that you fold the bag down before putting in the filling, otherwise it makes a mess when you try to squeeze out the filling. So get it all in. It's really important that the cookies have cooled, and you want to just flip over the top so that you're putting the filling on the bottom side, and you want to make like a square if you're using a square shaped cookie in the center, and just press the top to make your cookie sandwich. These should last a couple days if they're covered well. You can keep them in the refrigerator because the filling is going to get a bit soft because it's butter. But these are best eaten within a couple days after assembling. For this recipe and more, visit myclasscancook.com.